what I'd like you to do is tell me, when was this, where was it, the time of day, what you were doing, and then anything you remember.
I'd say around the 25th to the 30th of June, guesstimate time.
Okay.
It was middle of the day, or not middle. It was like probably 2-3 o'clock. But it was on the back roads, off post up in Washington, near JBLM. I was just coming home from some errands, and I was it was a single lane road on both sides, so it was about roughly like an average size roadway. It's probably like 15-20 foot wide. Sun was still up. It was still bright out. Sun doesn't really set till late, but it was probably about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the day. And it was on a curved road, and there's trees everywhere. It's Washington. There's trees everywhere. But off to the side of the right side of the road, I just saw something that looked like it was standing there out of the corner of my eye. But I didn't think anything of it. I just figured it was maybe a tree, a bush, or something because of the terrain and how much greenery is out there. But as I was driving, probably about 150 foot ahead of me, from the right side where this figure was, it darts across the road to the left side, and it cleared the road in easily 3 to 4 steps. Like I said, it was probably a 15-20 foot wide road to guesstimate, but it cleared it in 4 steps, 3 to 4 steps easily. And then on both sides of the road, probably about a foot off the road, there was ditches, probably like foot wide, foot deep, to help with like flooding and stuff. And it just glided right over that as it stepped.
Yeah.
But what I noticed is that as it was running across the road, it turned like towards my car, but it turned at the shoulders, not just the head, like kind of more like at its chest and shoulders. It like turned at me just slightly. And that's about when I noticed it. To me, it looked like someone running across the road in a ghillie suit. And I didn't think anything of that at first because I knew it was the back area, the training area in JBLM. And I know there's sniper units out there, and I know they wear ghillies. So at first I was like, okay, dude's out here training. But then as it started to clear the road and how fast it cleared the road, I was like, okay, that's taller than a normal person. Like they had to be at least 7 foot tall. I'm 6'4", and I could tell it was probably at least a little bit taller than me, but it was kind of hunched forward a little bit as it was running, sprinting across the road, whatever I would say that was. But even kind of hunched down a little bit, it still looked fairly tall.
Right.
I was going probably like 65 miles down an hour down the road. Excuse me. But like as it crossed the road, I noticed didn't have the figure didn't have like a rucksack or a backpack or a weapon or anything. It was just running barehanded. So I was like, okay, that's not a soldier. But once it was across the road and it cleared this 1 by 1 foot ditch, it kind of stopped. I'd say like 4 or 5 foot past this ditch on the side of the road. It kind of stopped on the other side of the tree, and it leaned like around the tree, cupped its right hand over the front of the tree, kind of like leaning onto it almost, and its left hand was drooped down to its side. And like just barely looking at it, like as quickly as I could, as I was driving, I noticed that its hand was just massive. Like its fingers were massive. And as funny as it may sound, I could compare the fingers to like a bratwurst. Just that's how like big and meaty its fingers looked.
Right.
But as I got a little bit closer, probably about 100 foot away from it by now, or like 50 to 75 feet away from it, it darts back another couple feet or a couple of yards, kind of into a tree line just off the side of the road, and it turned completely towards me, front facing right at me. And as I was basically parallel with it, and mind you, I'm still driving this whole time, but when I got basically right parallel with it, I was staring at it, and it was staring right back at me. And like I kind of got a quick glance at it, but as I thought back to it once I drove past it, from like the frontal view, shoulder to shoulder, it was probably 4 to 5 foot wide. It had to have been at least 7.5 foot tall, maybe a little bit taller, but it had to be at least 7 foot tall. Its face, the brow and forehead area, it was like slightly protruding from the rest of its face. The nose seemed short, like stubby, but like wide at the same time. I couldn't really make out like the mouth or the chin area because of like the shade of the trees and brush. It was kind of not brush, but like the shade of the trees where it was standing. It kind of blocked the lower half of its face, so I couldn't really tell that part too much. And also because of the shade where it was at and where it was standing from the sun, I couldn't tell exactly what like the shade of the hair was, but I could tell it was like kind of medium or long and like shaggy. But like it was probably like the color of the hair, I'd say it was like a darkish gray or like a dark brown maybe, or like a light brown, I'd say. And all of this happened within like 10 to 20 seconds. But just like after I drove past this, I looked back behind me trying to see like if it was still there or something. And I don't know if like I just got too far out, there's another tree blocking wherever it was standing, or if it retreated back into the tree line more. But when I looked back, I couldn't see anything. But like again, driving past it, I thought back to what I saw, and I was like processing it essentially. And when it was running across the road, the side view and then the front view of it, like weight-wise, it had to be probably around 500-pound range, if not pushing 600. And when it was running across the road, it's from the front of its chest to its back, I'd say it was probably like 1.5 feet, 2 foot wide from front to back. That's really about all I got, and all of this happened in like less than 30 seconds. So like it was not jarring, but it was like I had to get observations really quick.
Right. Well, so the questions that pop to my mind are, or comments. One, you've been in the military for how long up to this point? Would you say?
Going on 5 years, just over 5 years.
5 years. And you've seen people in ghillie suits?
Yes. So I was in active duty. I was a cavalry scout, so I was a recon element. So I've worked with JTAC in the Air Force. I've worked with infantry. I've worked with sniper elements. I've worked with engineers. I've worked with a lot of people. And I owned a ghillie suit for a short little bit of time myself. But so yes, I do know what that looks like.
Right. So my comment to anybody listening, you're very experienced with knowledge of ghillie suits, and this was obviously not a ghillie suit because otherwise you wouldn't be talking to me now. So you most likely saw a Bigfoot, and it was a quick encounter, but you got a lot of detail because you were only about 100, from what I remember you said, 100 to 150 feet when it crossed in front of you.
By the time it crossed me, it was probably, I'd say 150, 175 max foot away easily.
Yeah, that's not that far. I took a report a while back. A lady saw a Bigfoot in her yard, and I did measurements where it was standing. So 100 feet, hers was about 100 feet, almost exact. it's not that far. I mean, 100 feet, and then you maybe go 175 feet, a little bit further. That's fairly close. And then as you went by him, how you said from your vehicle in the road to where it was standing, how far were you when you got parallel to it?
I'd say probably about 20 foot, 25, 30 feet away from it, 20 to 30 feet away off the side of the road where it was standing at.
So that's really close to the road, considering. And then you were doing around 60, 65 miles an hour or something. Did you slow down?
Yeah, about 60.
When you got to it?
So I tried to, but I was kind of on a curve, and with it being a single lane road, and it was back roads, so like it's not heavily traversed, but I do know that people drive out there often, and with me being on a curve, I wanted to stop or try to turn around, maybe see if I could get a second view, but with the road I was on, there's not a quick turnaround point or a way for me to stop safely and not get possibly hit by another vehicle. So I unfortunately didn't have that ability. And even if I did find a time to turn around up the road, probably by the time I wrapped around and came back, it probably would have been gone anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, you weren't really looking for a Bigfoot. You were just driving. You had someplace to go. And
yep, I was just trying to get home.
Yeah, and you don't expect to see a Bigfoot, and then you're not, a lot of people, will sit there and go, how come you didn't stop, and how come? Well, they're not looking for Bigfoot. You're busy. Bigfoot's the furthest thing from your mind, unless you're like me, a researcher. We're always looking for Bigfoot, but it catches you off guard. You're trying to process it. Was it a person in a ghillie suit? That's not a ghillie suit. And it happens, like you said, in 20 seconds. You're by it, you're gone, and you look over at it and go, wow, I think I just saw a Bigfoot. And then what do you do? Like, do I go back? Or was that really a Bigfoot? Or was it not a Bigfoot? I don't know. And then by the time you get home, you think about it more. Oh, that might have been a Bigfoot. It takes a while to process it.
Yeah.
So tell me, you used initials, but what is the name of the base?
It's Joint Base McChord.
Say it one more time.
Joint Base Lewis McChord.
And that's in Oregon?
Washington.
Washington, okay. In Washington. Okay. And now, I know it sounds dumb. You mean Washington State, correct?
Yes, Washington State.
Okay. Washington, D.C. I don't know if there's a base in Washington, D.C., but and I'm really bad with geography, but Washington State, and then where this base is, do you know that road you're on? Is there a name of that road?
Oh, without looking it up, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, but this is just outside the base.
Yeah, it was probably, I'd say within 5 miles of being off post. But where I was at, there's a lot of trees, a lot of forest out there, because the base owns a lot of area off post for like training areas. Mm-hmm. In the area I was in, it was like a land navigation course, so it's a lot of heavy brush, heavy vegetation, and it's like it's just meant for that. And it's Washington. There's trees everywhere, there's bushes everywhere, there's green everywhere. Yeah. But like I've been out to that specific training area where I was at. I've been out there on ground before, and like there's nothing out there. There's just trees and hills and rocks, and like there's nothing out there.
And that area where you saw this creature, do they do trainings in that exact area?
I've personally been rucking down that road going to an objective during training before, yes.
So they will do trainings out there. And,
Yes.
you know, again, for people that are listening, Fort Knox, which happens to be where you are right now, you're doing some kind of summer program there. You know, there's some multiple sightings on Fort Knox. And what I tell people, you know, why would a Bigfoot be where they do training or near a gun range? Or they're used to it. They have to live side by side with us, and they know where there's hunters, where hunters hunt. They know where there's gun ranges. They know where there's army bases, and they're smart enough to know to keep their distance, even though the military might have the best technology and are very stealthy in their, you know, maneuvers. A Bigfoot is, I would say, even more stealthy and smarter and knows how to avoid us and has learned, you know, where they can go safely. And a lot of these places, you know, you can't hunt, you know, so they're kind of protected in a way. So like national parks, state parks, military bases, it's hard to go hunting on them. I know you can get permits in Fort Knox to go hunting on certain occasions, but it's not like a free for all where people can hunt any time of the day, you know, any season, and, you know, when it's season. So my point is, these areas are really good for Bigfoots because there's less hikers, you know, hunters, etc. And they just know where the military is. They know to keep their distance. They know to, you know, remain hidden unless sometimes someone sees them as, you know, and they drive by like you did.
Yeah.
So a couple of things when you saw it as you drove by it, you said you did see the nose. What about, you know, the shape of the head? Do you remember the overall shape of the head?
It was kind of, I wrote this down in my notes too, I think. I've been looking at my notes for this because it's kind of a lot to remember, and it was a while ago.
Yeah. And I don't want you to add any details, of course, but when you drove by, I know you're still going kind of quick, and you got a glimpse of his face and the overall shape of it, like the head, the shape of the head, the eyes, anything else you remember?
So the head, it was more round, but it was also like ovalish at the same time, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Probably not.
Like oval towards the top, like oblong.
Yeah, so like the top, like the head or the forehead area or the crown of the head to like the chin jawline was kind of ovalish, but the side of it, like the side of its head, was kind of rounded, like more so on like the cheekbones. It's kind of rounded almost, but like it was more kind of like a stubby oval.
Right.
I noticed that like the hair, I couldn't really see the neck, like any skin on the neck. The hair kind of came down on a little bit onto its forehead, and then it kind of just opened around the face, came down, like right in front of the ears, kind of like the hair just kind of traced the outside or the inner shape of the face, and it kind of went up the jawline, up in front of its ears, and up on part of its forehead. When it had its hand up on the tree when it first crossed the road, I noticed it was kind of like fingerless gloves in a way. Like the hair came up onto the wrist, slightly onto like half the hip, I'd say, on the top of the hand, and then it was just skin. There was no fur on its fingers that I could quickly look at, or that I could see in a quick amount of time. I could barely see ears off the side of its head. Like I could barely see like the tip of its ears, I guess, coming through hair on the side of its head. I couldn't really see a color of eyes. They were definitely darker. Shape, I couldn't really tell very well. Like the shape of its eyes, I couldn't really tell too much. Mainly because I was also tracking like 60, 75 miles an hour. But I could tell its eyes were definitely darker in color near the pupil area.
Yeah. Do you think you have enough detail for someone to make a sketch if you talk to them? Like I have an artist in our organization. He will make a sketch of what you saw if you want.
I mean, if that could be done, if that helps your records at all, like I'm okay with that.
Okay. I'll try to. I'll give you his number, and you can call him whenever you want. And just mainly, the sketch would be it's standing by the tree, so you don't have to tell him the whole story. Just tell him, it was standing by this tree. Its arm was around the tree. This is what the face looked like. This is the color of it, and any details. And he would just do a drawing of it when you drove by it, what it looked like.
Right.
So his name is Terry Thomas. He's a sketch artist that we use in our group. And then it's kind of cool though. When he does the picture, you can print it out and put it on your wall.
Yeah.
If you wanted.
I tried to draw it myself. My dad suggested that, but I am not the best drawer.
Yeah, I'm not either. Terry's really good, and he'll just talk to you on the phone, and you just kind of tell what it was doing, the way it was staying by the tree, the hair around the face, the nose, the color, the eyes. It's pretty simple. It wouldn't take long. When we hang up, I'll give you his number, and you can call him, one evening, and just tell him you spoke to me, and he'll take a few notes. Now, your notes that you wrote down, you wrote them down on just a piece of legal pad or something?
I just typed them up on my phone. It was the easiest thing I had at the time.
Oh, okay. So what I could do too, if you don't care, if you wouldn't mind, send me your notes that you jotted down. I'll paste them in the description in the YouTube. Here's the notes that he actually took immediately after. Every little thing like that adds to the encounter. Any kind of documentation we can add, helps. And then the other thing is, if you could get on Google Earth and get a pin and drop a pin where you think you saw it, and send me that as well. I'll add that as well to the report. The reason I say that is, if somebody listening from that area and they hear this encounter and they go, I know right where that is. I saw a Bigfoot just around the corner. So it might trigger some people to come forward and share their sighting.
Yeah.
So the more detail we can add to it, the better, is what I'm trying to say.
For sure.
So, all right. Well, this is awesome. That's exciting. You saw a lot more detail than I thought. When your dad mentioned a road crossing, most road crossings, you don't really get to see the Bigfoot's face. It just darts across the road. And we just had this discussion the other night on our podcast. Why do they do that? Like, if they're so intelligent, why'd they run across the road? And from all my years of doing this, a lot of times, most of the time, we don't have a quarter pretty fast. I know you can see and he does not. He runs. And a lot of times they're preoccupied. They're looking for food. That maybe they're chasing a deer, maybe they're chasing a mate, and a car comes around a corner and catches them. So I don't believe they do it on purpose for people to see them. There's people out there that say, "Oh, they wanted you to see it." I don't buy that. I think they want to remain hidden. They don't. There's other times they do show themselves, for sure. Different scenarios, and if there's a young one nearby or a female nearby, the male may show himself, like other animals do. If it's a territorial thing, they'll kind of show themselves or distract you. But in terms of road crossings, they just get unlucky. They happen to be busy doing something, and there's so many motorists, somebody's bound to see one, and it happens. All right, Adam, thank you so much for sharing all this. And if anything else, comes up, just give me a call or give me a text message.
All right, I can do that.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Have a good night.
Yep. You as well.
Bye.